Well, there are other superhero movies coming out. I don't know if you've heard of this one, you guys, but this is Avengers Doomsday. It's going to star Robert Downey Jr., if you've heard.
Oh my God.
He's back?
But a little bit of information has been revealed, but was to be assumed, one might say. The Avengers, Wakandans, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and original X-Men are all fighting Doctor Doom, assumably separately. This is starting to remind me a lot of how Infinity War played out, where there were separate groups and they were all having a hand at fighting Thanos, one group at a time. And he was going back and forth. But that's the thing. Thanos was set up over multiple movies. We have no clue about this version of Doctor Doom. I mean, if you've read the comics, you know who he is. Most people know who he is.
That's what they're relying on.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on this about this setup and
Doctor Desperation, man. That's what I'm feeling like.
Well,
pretty
yeah,
much.
that's for sure.
Yeah, this is their last card to play, and they're going hard with it. Yeah.
I do have a question.
Is the real question? Like,
right? Who are they?
Point.
Nobody knows.
So
Even
far, I think all you've got
Wakanda
is new Captain America that nobody likes, and then new Falcon that people like and know even less than new Captain America. And then maybe the young, like you've got Kate Bishop, who tried to recruit Ant-Man's daughter that everybody fucking hates. So you've got like the threads of possible new Avengers group. And I'm seriously, genuinely,
Antifa?
What's the group? What's the Avengers group at this point?
If they have the Avengers, Wakandans, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, the original X-Men, the only explanation is they're going to make them all stupid in order for them to lose to Doctor Doom. They're not going to write this well. Like, Infinity War was a miracle. Like, looking back at it now, the fact that actually worked, they can't do it again. I have no faith. Like, I will be as super cynical as possible. And I'm willing to eat my words. I would love to have an MCU movie that I love again. But
plus, are you going to have the same... Are you going to have the same emotional moments with the villain that Thanos had, where he killed Gamora?
No, Thanos.
Right, because we don't really care about anybody yet. The Fantastic Four are yet to be introduced. The Wakandans are not being led by Black Panther. They're being led by some fucking anorexic
his sister
retard. The Thunderbolts, maybe it might be good. It most likely will just be okay and forgettable. And the only thing we really have to cling to are the original X-Men, and that's entirely based on nostalgia. And nobody likes the current Avengers, whoever they probably are.
Yeah.
The Infinity War had the foundation of there were, I think, essentially two groups. There was like Iron Man's group, three groups: Iron Man's group, Thor's group, and Captain America's group. And they are the Trinity of the Avengers, so it made sense.
Thor and Guardians was one of the best ideas.
Right. Thor putting Thor with Guardians was great. And so you had those three as the foundation of each group, but this movie doesn't have that. And that's going to be key to this movie's success.
Even putting Doctor Strange and Iron Man in the same plot line was brilliant. Having both of those personalities clash. If you didn't do that, you're an idiot. But they understood those opportunities and didn't waste any of them in Infinity War. Like, it's so fantastic. Even the tiny details of the end of, like, how Thor attacks Thanos last, all the other Avengers come and attack him. Thor attacks him last because he's not wearing a transponder. And you see all the other Avengers using it throughout the film. So just little details like that just connect in such a fantastic way. And you don't even think about it until you rewatch it. And I just don't see that same type of passion anymore. Like, how could you go from Phase 5 to this and do something on par with Infinity War?
Well, what's going to be Doomsday's motivation? Because again, what made Thanos so interesting was that he had an ideology and he was willing to sacrifice what he loved to achieve it.
Yeah.
Doomsday isn't going to have that complexity because he's just going to be a conqueror.
Well, no, I think so. If they do follow the Secret Wars comic book from 10 years ago, his Doctor Doom is the villain, but he thinks he's saving the multiverse because of the cataclysms that universes interacting with each other causes a cataclysm, and eventually the entire multiverse will be doomed. So he thinks he's saving the multiverse. That is what I think will be the foundation of his character.
It is just, it would be really convenient if they'd actually shown us any cataclysms resulting from any of the previous multiverse incursions.
Mentioned it.
They were mentioned, Multiverse of Madness. You can't do it. It'll create incursions. And then for the rest of the phase 4, 5, and 6, incursions happen left, right, and center, and nothing goes wrong. And then they introduce the concept of fucking anchor beings, which is just an entirely different thing.
What does Loki have to say about
the
all
problem
this?
is you get rid of those instead. It's like, and you've still got Loki anchoring like the entire multiverse together, and I think this came up like a couple of weeks ago when we last discussed it. I mean, there's not really an easy way to use him unless he is the target for the villain to get to. So, like,
I think
the race to save Loki or something like that will be the basic plot.
How would you explain Loki to someone who hasn't seen a TV show? So Loki gets his neck snapped. Then that's the last time you saw him. Then you watch Doomsday. He's literally the god of fucking everything.
He's a tree in the center of the universe.
He's a giant tree of time.
It's so
How would you explain that?
I do have a question actually for the people that I guess, because they revealed that Sue is pregnant in the Fantastic Four movie, and I know that whoever her kid is in one of the storylines is basically like God in the Marvel universe. So
Doomsday,
does that? No, it's like someone completely separate. Yeah, I'm just wondering, doesn't that kind of imply that maybe Doctor Doom is just going to be a shoehorn for something else, and that's why they put Robert Downey Jr. there? Do you think that changes what the outcome might be or the play that they might take for the Doomsday arc?
That would make sense because they can't. I was gonna say they can't keep him there long term over the budget. Like this Robert Downey Jr. deal has to be a short thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're setting something up. You could be right.
I think the movie's going to be one gigantic fight scene. If that many groups are in it and they haven't really been introduced, it's going to be one continuous action sequence for 2 hours, and it's going to oddly get boring because there's too much going on.
Unless you do it like a Royal Rumble. Dr. Doom is in a ring and he comes in first and everyone's going to try and get him out.
Well, that's what Secret Wars is supposed to be. Like, my understanding, right, is that it's Battle World is just a gigantic battle, right? Like, and it's my from what I've read and been told, it's kind of just kids with toys from every line, just fuck yeah, they're just fighting each other. Hell yeah, this is awesome. And then it all ends and there's a singularity, and that's how they kind of got the sprawling storylines of the comics to rein back in. And that's what they're going to have to do with these movies. But I don't think that it's going to look as cool as it felt in the comics for a lot of people. I think it's just going to get bland real fast.
Interesting.
Yep. So everyone's super excited about this.
Massively excited about this.
I will BRB you guys. Be right back.
Right, well, since all of the thing we just discussed is reliant in a large degree on the next of the big Marvel movies to come out, I'm discounting Thunderbolts because who gives a fuck about them? There's been a little bit more news, and so this is kind of related to what we were just discussing, the fact that nobody has any pre-established relationships either with the villain or, it turns out, from if this is any guide, with each other either, because we're not going to have any crossovers in the Fantastic Four film. It looks like it will just be the Fantastic Four. There won't be any like interaction with anybody from any other part of the MCU, so there won't be any relationship building in this movie. It's an interesting choice, because that means that all the relationship stuff has to start from scratch in your big Avengers film. But is this the right decision, do we think? Focus purely on the Fantastic Four and have nobody else there?
It's not a bad idea, but again, now you're jumping into, because the first Secret Wars movie is 2026 or 2027?
27 is the Secret War.
Yeah, so that's very little time to build up your characters on their own, especially when you've got a million other Marvel movies coming out at the same time that are also trying to build characters, and they're not coming together in any way.
No, I mean, I think this is the last one between. So it's Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. We don't mention Ironheart because it's Disney Plus and nobody wants that to exist. It's Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and then there's nothing, is there, between Fantastic Four and Doomsday. Doomsday is the next big one to come out.
That's a strange choice then.
Yeah, I think that is correct. Yeah, I don't think there's any movies.
How dare you not mention Ironheart, you racist.
if this was at the beginning of Phase
Ironheart's
4,
going to be
it would have
so
been good
fantastic
to build these
for all
up.
of us in our views. Sorry.
I was just saying, if this was not the last film as a Phase 4 or 5,
this is the first film of 5.
Yeah, Phase 6.
I've lost track of all that
6.
phase stuff.
Jesus.
I have no idea.
6.
See, you could have said 7. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's a great idea to build them up and just focus on the story, but it's the worst time to do it is just before Doomsday, which comes out 2026.
Yeah.
They cannibalize their own content. We're like, oh, this movie being focused on this movie being its own movie is a bad thing because we have to think about these other movies down the line when we can't even just appreciate. Like, this is how it's been turned into content. Nobody cares about the movie. They only care what it's setting up and whether or not it's going to connect it. Like, how about just make a good film and start from there? I just don't understand why they can't go back to the basics. They haven't learned from the last 5 years of bullshit.
I think it is because of the proximity to the Avengers film. So it's one thing to say, like, if you're starting at the beginning of a phase and you have an entire phase worth of movies to build characters up individually and start teasing their relationships and the links between them, and then it culminates in an Avengers film at the end of like year 5 of this project. That's one thing. But it's when there is one movie and then the Avengers film when everything has to come together. It's because I'm in favor of, yeah, like you say, like actually reverting to the way they used to do things. Unfortunately, the time scale doesn't allow them to do that because they have a huge, massive like conglomeration event thing happening a year after this comes out. So it's whether or not they require any kind of crossover to start doing some of the pre-lifting work that Avengers Doomsday will require.
Like, it worked with Guardians. Guardians didn't have any connection to the Avengers prior to this, so I'm using that as an example in my head. But like, I just can't see like I said, Thor and the Guardians was like just miracle. Like that it just worked perfectly, and it was a great way to blend them into the MCU and slowly have them clash. I just don't know how you can get these people in. Let's say Fantastic Four is as successful as the Guardians. There's just no characters in the MCU right now for them to clash off. What are they gonna do? Like with Captain Wakanda and like the Thing?
Time travel is the other problem because this takes place in the 60s and all the other characters are in present day.
It's a different universe.
60s in a different universe, though, so it can still be running concurrently with our present day because it's like it's retro futuristic as opposed to just being retro.
So they still have to jump through a portal, though. Then, right? If they're
this really is confusing with
this, and he's
sorry, what was that, Greg?
Aren't they going to meet Dr. Doom at the end of this? Like, doesn't he get introduced at the end of the Fantastic Four, and that's how like right at the end they get tied into the current whatever MCU?
One would assume, but I think Dr. Doom is going to be fighting people across the multiverse, like the Fox X-Men, this Fantastic Four, and then whatever Prime 1 Earth or whatever 616 Earth, whatever the fuck it is, 616. But my thing with this is it's very confusing. Remember that line in Doctor Strange 2 when he referred to Fantastic Four, alluding to the fact that they existed on the Prime Earth. So I'm just really, I don't know. It's hyper confusing.
Didn't Wanda spaghettify him?
Yep, that version of him, yeah.
The world's smartest man. He went, listen, Wanda, Black
here's how you kill me
if he talks.
Oh god!
But then she also snapped Professor X's neck as well, and he's coming back for this movie. And then there's all the other questions about which X-Men timeline are we stealing from? Like, are they coming from Days of Future Past? Are they coming from a universe where that never happened? Are they coming from Logan where they're all dead? Like, I don't understand. But I don't think the movie will even try to explain those things.
They're not gonna bother. Like Doctor Strange, MOM has like 3 different rules for how multiverse works, and it conflicts with Loki, then it conflicts with the first Doctor Strange, then it conflicts with Spider-Man. It's all and it's all fucked. They can't even explain their own shit. So how can we like expect to comprehend it at all? They need to just chill out.
Didn't Deadpool and Wolverine kind of explain it? Question mark.
No, they came.
It was also confusing.
Okay.
Saying they invented anchor beings, which is your universe dies if you die. Which, how does a universe function before you're alive?
Or after you die of natural causes? It's just like every universe has a very, very limited time window of about what's the average age? Like it's like 75. That's the average age of a universe. Is just when people die of old age.
And where's America Chavez? Why isn't she fixing all this shit? Where's her parents causing incursion?
She'll be in the next row of chairs when they finally unveil the rest of the cast of this new Avengers movie. There'll be that all the young Avengers will be there, so she'll be there. And then they'll probably throw in some random people as well, just for good measure.
When I know that America Chavez, Gaia, and Captain Marvel should exist somewhere in this universe, how am I supposed to take anyone seriously when I know this? It's just, you know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? You've broken it completely. You need to reset the whole game. It's not.
Can you imagine if they brought Gaia back? Like the scene where they tried to explain. Someone says, "And what's your powers?" And she says, "Everything,
everything, all the powers." Just completely. I need that guy. I honestly, you just made it. That's the number one thing I want to see. Somehow, some way, bring back Gaia, Emilia Clarke's Gaia. I need to see those biceps again. What a fucking
strong see those biceps again.
Holy shit. Stupid. I feel so bad for her. But,
yeah. She got a hefty paycheck. Don't feel bad for her.
Yeah, but her career is in the dumpster. Like everything she touches turns to shit. You know? It sucks.